وكذلك أوحينا إليك روحا من أمرنا ما كنت تدري ما الكتاب ولا الإيمان ولكن جعلناه نورا نهدي به من نشاء من عبادنا وإنك لتهدي إلى صراط مستقيم صراط الله الذي له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض ألا إلى الله تصير الأمور.
Al-Mosawer, the fashioner, is the 18th name in our list. And we'll be looking at this name first and foremost to understand Allah through this name. What does this name indicate in terms of His attributes, so that we can better understand Him, to worship Him in accordance with this name. Then we will look to see how this name should impact on us as believers. What relevance does it have to our day-to-day life? What lessons, what knowledge is there that we can extract from it, that we can use to make our lives more in keeping with what Allah wants from us? Because this is why Allah revealed these names. Allah told us, وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى فَادْعُوهُ بِهَا. All the good, excellent, beautiful names belong to Allah, so call on Him with them. Pray to Him in accordance with them. Use them in our praying to Allah. So the name Al-Mosawer, which is only mentioned in one place in the Quran, Surah Al-Hashr, again, verse 24, هو الله الخالق البارئ المصور. He is Allah, the creator, the originator, the fashioner. This term, Mosawer, this name, comes from the root sawar, which means leaning. In the context of Allah, the divine name Al-Mosawer means that He creates in whatever form He wishes. He gives His creation form. So it's still an element of creation, as I mentioned earlier. Al-Khaliq, Al-Khalaq, right? Al-Bari, we took already. All of these, and Al-Mosawer, all of them relate back to creation. Al-Khaliq is creating from nothing. Al-Bari is the only one to do so. He is the originator. None others have done it or can do it. Al-Mosawer is the one who, when He creates things, He gives it a design, He gives it a form, He gives it an image, etc. So, Allah said, for example, in Surah Al-Infitar, verses 7 and 8, الذي خلقك فسواك فعدلك في أي سورة ما شاء ركبك. Who created you, fashioned you in due proportion, and assembled you in whatever form He wishes. This is Allah. He is the one that gives us the form that we have. So how does this knowledge of Allah being the form giver, the fashioner, how does it impact on our faith? Well, what it does is that it reminds the believer that the external forms that we have, these external forms came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's nothing to be proud about in them, because it's not anything that we did. We didn't create it. This is really from Allah. So, what then is the important aspect of the human being? It isn't the external that we see, that external form, which people tend to be caught up in. You know, so-and-so is handsome, so-and-so is beautiful. Everybody wants to be beautiful and handsome. But what Prophet Muhammad ﷺ had said was, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَنْظُرُ إِلَىٰ صُوَرِكُمْ. Indeed, Allah does not look at your forms. These forms that He has created you in, He doesn't look at them. So what does He look at? He doesn't look at your forms, nor وَأَمْوَالِكُمْ, or your wealth. Because where did that wealth come from? He gave it to you. You really didn't earn it. Yeah, you think you went to work and all these kinds of things and you got it, but no. Allah is the one who gave it to you. Because there are other people who go to work doing the same thing that you do and they don't get it. So why you and not them? This is the decision of Allah. So this is not what makes a person good, pleasing in the sight of Allah, a great human being. Not because of how they look or the wealth that they have. What is it? As the Prophet ﷺ went on to say, وَلَكِنْ يَنْظُرُ إِلَىٰ قُلُوبِكُمْ وَأَعْمَالِكُمْ. Instead, He looks at your hearts and your deeds. He looks at your hearts and your deeds. The hearts, which is inside the chests. This is not something people usually show off. Say, look, I have a nicer heart than you have. No. Because when you cut people open, it doesn't look very pleasant. Doesn't matter whose heart it is. The most beautiful male or female on the earth, their heart looks no more beautiful than anybody else's heart. In the end, it is really what is in the heart in terms of the faith. That is what distinguishes the people, and that's what Allah looks at. As He said, Inna akramakum inda Allahi atqakum. Indeed, the most noble of you are those who fear Allah the most. This is the principle that He has given us. Not the external, from which people are divided into different forms, shapes, and sizes. But the internal, the heart. And what comes from the heart are the deeds. What kind of deeds we do. This is what makes a person a great person, a good person. The deeds that they do. And that's why Prophet Muhammad ﷺ had told us, when it comes to getting married, and that's the beginning of family life, he said, تُنْكَحُ الْمَرْأَةُ لِأَرْبَعٍ لِمَالِهَا وَلِحَسَبِهَا وَلِجَمَالِهَا وَدِينِهَا. Women are married for 4 reasons: their wealth, their lineage, their beauty, and their piety. But he said, فَاظْفَرْ بِذَاتِ الدِّينِ تَرِبَتْ يَدَاكَ. Choose the pious, may you be successful. Choose the one that's most pious. That's the one who has it in the heart. That is the most important thing. If you're going to raise a generation, how is that generation going to be raised? If the heart isn't good. As the Prophet ﷺ had said, إِنَّ فِي الْجَسَدِ مُضْغَةً. Indeed, in the body is a clump of flesh. إِذَا صَلُحَتْ صَلُحَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ. If it becomes good, all of the body becomes good. وَإِذَا فَسَدَتْ فَسَدَتِ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ. And if it goes bad, the whole body goes bad. أَلَا وَهِيَ الْقَلْبُ. Indeed, it is the heart. This is the essence of the matter. So, belief in Allah as Al-Mosawer should bring us to that reality. He is the one that created the forms, so He's not giving us any special reward for them. It's from Him. And what we should see when we see beauty or whatever we see Allah's greatness, not the greatness of the individual. Greatness lies in the quality of that individual, his or her moral character, his or her faith, his or her deeds. What kind of deeds are they doing? What kind of life do they live? So this is your basic factor which you use to determine, to distinguish amongst people the status of the faith. Furthermore, this attribute and the name which carries it, Al-Mosawer, should help the believer understand why Allah has prohibited images. He is Al-Mosawer. He is the one who makes the images. In Islam, we know that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, أشد الناس عذابا يوم القيامة المصورون. The people who receive the most severe punishment on the Day of Judgment are the image makers. Now our brothers behind the cameras are looking and smiling. Well, of course, what is understood from that is that the image makers are those who actually create images, in the sense that they carve, they paint, they draw, etc. That is the understanding of most scholars in this regard. Some do hold that even the movie or video or whatever is included, but the majority hold that this is not the case. The point is that these images that are made, that were made in ancient times, carvings, drawings, etc., they led early generations of human beings into idolatry. There's a story which was related by the Prophet ﷺ concerning the people of Nuh. That there were some righteous men among them who died, and Satan came to the people and told them that they should make images of these righteous people and leave them in the places where they used to sit and they used to gather. Satan came back to them after they did that in a later time when they had forgotten what their parents did it for, and told them that it is because of their parents' worship of these images that the crops were good, rain came, and life was well. And people then fell into idolatry. With that, dear viewers, we're going to take a break and come back to you after the break looking at the name Al-Mosawer. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
When you are weak and the road seems long, remember, just remember, seek strength from the strong. When you are weak and the road seems long, remember, just remember, seek strength from the strong.
Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu rasulillah. All praise is due to Allah, and may Allah's peace and blessings be on the last messenger of Allah. We'd like to welcome you, dear viewers, back to our program, In the Names of Allah. In this segment, we're looking at the 18th name of Allah, Al-Mosawer, the fashioner, one who gives the creation its form and its shape. And prior to the break, we were looking at an element of the impact of knowledge of this name on the believer, saying that basically this name also informs us why the making of images by our hands, etc., was prohibited in Islam. And it was basically to prevent the possibility of idolatry. That's the fundamental element. But there's also that other element in which the Prophet ﷺ had referred when he said, الَّذِينَ يُشَبِّهُونَ بِخَلْقِ اللَّهِ, those who try to imitate Allah's creation. And we hear that amongst the artists, the great artists, that they have created something which, as they say, is greater than life. And people become attached to these images. So Islam made this making of images of living creatures and beings prohibited in order to protect the faith of people in general, especially those who could be influenced by the attachment and the love of beautiful or attractive images which they have been raised on. Also, belief in this name, Al-Mosawer, like the names Al-Khaliq and Al-Khallaq, they should create in the heart of the believer a sense of awe when they look at the creation. How Allah has made this creation. He has given it form. And in that form is design, meaning the snowflakes that fall. How many snowflakes fall in a year around the world? God only knows. But what scientists have found is that no two snowflakes look alike. When you put that simple snowflake that you see falling, it doesn't look like anything, you put it under a microscope and you find this object of great design, very geometric design. And each and every snowflake carries a different design. These are among the signs which Allah has left. As Al-Mosawer, the one who gives form and design to things. These are among the signs for them, assuring them that there is a God, a creator of this world. It is not a product of accident, as some would have us believe. They say, well, the chance collision of atoms and whatever, this is what created this world. It's just by accident. But we say no. When you find design, design indicates a designer. That is a basic principle. This is the argument which was used by Plato, logical argument for the existence of God. Designs don't come consistently from accident. Meaning, if you take a bucket of paint and you throw it on the wall, it might splatter on the wall and you say, okay, that sort of looks like a hand. That sort of looks like a head. Maybe like a foot. Maybe like a person. Silhouette. If you look at it this way or that way, you might be able to see this. Right? Like the clouds. But, if one were to suggest that we could mix paints, right? We mix paints, add them into a bucket, the different colors, and take this bucket and throw it on the wall and end up with Mona Lisa. Okay, it's the famous painting which artists love. People traditionally from European backgrounds, they adore this as one of the great works of art. You take that bucket of paint with all the colors there and throw it on the wall and end up with a Mona Lisa. Well, common sense tells you that this is not going to happen. Of course, the people who are claiming that this thing can happen, they say, well, no, if you do it enough times, eventually, one time, yeah, it might happen. But common sense tells us the first time that you try it is no different from the billionth time. It's all the same. There is absolutely no chance for this to happen. Absolutely no chance. It's just not going to happen. This is the reality. That everywhere scientists look, inside the plants, inside the animals, inside the earth, inside, outside the universe, the planets, the solar systems, the galaxies, everywhere they look, they find design. Everywhere they look, they find design. So, this cannot be the product of an accident. There is no way. Accidents don't produce design all the time. Occasionally, you might find some design, but no. Like some people say, dropping an atomic bomb in a junkyard, and that explosion producing what? A Rolls Royce. What are the chances of that happening? That's nonsensical. So, this issue of Allah being Al-Mosawer, it gives us that sense of confidence to know that yes, this world was created. God exists. Proof is there. It's quite logical and reasonable. The evidence is there. We don't have to see God to believe in Him. Just as we don't have to see electricity, or to see magnetism, or to see heat. We don't have to see these things to believe it exists. It's enough for us to perceive its effects, and that's enough to believe. Reasonably and logically. Really, those who claim that the world is a product of an accident are really the illogical ones. They're the ones who are following what common sense says completely otherwise. The last point I'd like to raise for us to reflect on concerning Allah being Al-Musawwir, the fashioner and the designer, who gave the creatures their form, their colors, their families, their species, and all these different things, right? If we take it and look at probably the most critical area, that of human beings. Allah created us in a variety of different forms. As He said, He did so that we may know each other. لِتَعَارَفُوا, that we may know each other. Not that we may despise each other and make differences and counting people this way and that way, and we have this thing of race, this person's from that race and the other race. No, this is all nonsense. This is not from Allah, this is human beings. People made up this whole concept of race. Otherwise, reality is that we're one human race. That's reality. Allah created Adam, as he said, through His messenger, كُلُّكُم مِّنْ آدَمَ وَآدَمْ مِّن تُرَابٍ. All of you came from Adam, and Adam came from dust. That's the bottom line. We're all one family. And Allah left signs amongst us. Among them, a sign for our times, where issues of race would become a big issue. People divide up. People were enslaved based on the issues of race. He left a sign in the blood of human beings. We come in a variety of different blood groups. And these blood groups are not according to race at all. You may find somebody from the Scandinavia with the whitest of skin, blondest of hair, bluest of eyes, from a blood group A. and the rest of the people in that same community are B, O, everything else. And if that person was in need of a blood transfusion, nobody in his or her community would be able to help them. But you can find somebody else from the south of India or in Africa who is the blackest of black. Hair black, pupils black, skin black, but he is A-type blood, and his blood can save that person from the north. What is that but a proof and a clear sign that we are one human race? So, this knowledge of Allah being Al-Mosawer also brings us to that conclusion of a oneness of the human race. We are all one people, and this is what Hajj tells us. That's what we experience personally. And those that have been on Hajj, this is among the things that amaze them, how people come in so many shapes, colors, forms, etc. And what brings them all there together? The faith. So Al-Mosawer takes us back to this unifying factor which unifies all of humankind, belief in God. With that, dear viewers, we'd like to thank you for being with us in this segment of our program, In the Names of Allah, where we have looked at the 18th name, Al-Mosawer, as a part of the series relating to the creation. Al-Khallaq, Al-Khaliq, the creators, Al-Bari, the originator, and Al-Mosawer, the fashioner. We hope to see you in our coming program, where we'll be looking at the names related to Allah's quality of being the oft-forgiving. Al-Ghafur, Al-Ghaffar, and Al-Ghafir. With that, we bid you farewell. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
When you are weak and the road seems long, remember, just remember, seek strength from the strong. When life is a burden and everything is unstable, remember, just remember, Allah is the able. When nothing makes sense and you're heading for demise, remember, just remember, Allah is the wise. When the way is cloudy and there's no one by your side, remember, just remember, Allah is the only guide. When your heart is breaking and your pain makes you fall, remember, just remember, Allah sees it all. When you are weak and the road seems long, remember, just remember, seek strength from the strong. When life is a burden and everything is unstable, remember, just remember, Allah is the able. When nothing makes sense and you're heading for demise, remember, just remember, Allah is the wise. When the way is cloudy and there's no one by your side, remember, just remember, Allah is the only guide. When your heart is breaking and your pain makes you fall, remember, just remember, Allah